Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the sixth lecture in our Good Clinical Laboratory Practice webinar series. We are thrilled to have you all and our esteemed speaker, Dr. Jayesh Warade, with us once again as we continue to explore crucial aspects of laboratory practices in accordance with the ICMR guidelines. Today's session will delve into ethical considerations, quality management, including internal and external quality assessment, proficiency testing. These topics are essential for maintaining a high standard of integrity and excellence in laboratory operations. We are excited to gain a deeper understanding of these vital topics from our esteemed speaker, Dr. Jayesh Warade again. Dr. Warade has been instrumental in guiding us through this series with his profound expertise and insights. Thank you all for your dedication and active participation in this series. Without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Warade to begin today's lecture. Thank you, sir. The dais is all yours.
Yes, welcome back everybody for the sixth session in this series with respect to the as part of today's program will be related to the ethical considerations and quality management. Apart from that, we will also discuss about internal quality control and external quality assessment or proficiency testing program. So, or proficiency testing. So, again, yesterday I mentioned that yesterday was we have discussed with respect to the safety, and at the beginning itself I mentioned that it is the most important aspect of your good clinical laboratory practices. Now coming to this next class, ethical consideration. So again, to emphasize that ethical consideration is also one of the most important aspect of your good laboratory practices, which should be considered, because the work whatever we perform, whatever reliable, accurate and precise results we are delivering to our customers, you may call, or to our patients, the most important part is ethics, which we follow during this complete process of our laboratory operations. So now here, as I have mentioned, these guidelines are also applicable to your research laboratories, because the first guideline came in 2008, which I have mentioned you in the first lecture itself. ICMR, the guidelines for GCLP came, first edition was in 2008, and this is the second edition which came in 2021. So in this second edition 2021, they have also emphasized a good clinical laboratory practices in a research laboratories also. So this ethics part is mostly related with your research laboratories, and also it is also related with your medical practices or good clinical practices in your diagnostics laboratories. So with starting with the ethics, personnel working in clinical or research laboratories should be aware of their ethical responsibilities and follow the basic and general ethical principle. So very important aspect, and again a very neglected aspect. We give lot of training to our staff whenever we appoint a new staff or whenever we are recruiting people. We do lot of things. We give them lot of training, how to perform the test, how to handle samples, everything. But what generally is forgotten is the ethical part, because we don't consider it that important, or maybe we are ourselves are not aware what is ethical, what is unethical practices are there in the laboratory. The researcher and the team are responsible for protecting the dignity, rights, safety, and well being of the participants enrolled in the study, which are governed by following principles. So, there are certain principles. As I mentioned, this is applicable to the research laboratories also. So, here we have included it as a part of researcher and the team. So, team can be from the research team or can be from your diagnostic laboratory team. So, what are these basic principles which should be followed in the as a part of ethical consideration in good clinical laboratory practices? First is the Principle of voluntariness. So whereby respect for the right of the subject participant to agree or not to agree in participate in research or to withdraw from the research at any time. So whenever you are performing any research related test on your patients, so you should give them all freedom whether they want to participate or they want to complete the study or they just want to leave it in between. It's up to them. Give them all freedom. Similarly, as in one of the class, somebody was asking one question. Whenever we are training our staff, is it a separate consent required to take an additional sample? So it's up to your patient. They may or they may not allow. So please ask them. You cannot just take the samples and additional sample just to train your own staff. So a principle of voluntariness should be followed. Give them freedom whether they want to participate in those training activities also or they can just deny. Why should they give blood samples to you just for practicing your staff? They came for obtaining the services. They are not going to get any means it is not up to it is up to them to follow those practices. So give them freedom. That is principle of voluntariness. The informed consent process ensures that participants' rights are safeguarded. So once you get a consent, specifically the informed consent. Now, what is in the informed consent? Informed consent means related to any activities, related to your testing procedure, related to your diagnostic activity, related to the activities which are carried on the patient, or related to the research activities. You should give complete information to your patient and then you should ask for their consent. So you have given information, that is informed, and then you have asked for the consent. That is informed consent. You should explain all the details, advantages, disadvantages of the studies, of the sample collection methods, and then only you should obtain the consent. So this informed consent will ensure that patient rights will be safeguarded during your research activities or during diagnostic testing. Next principle is the principle of non-exploitation. So whereby research participants are equitably selected so that the benefits and burdens of the research are distributed fairly without arbitrariness or discrimination. So you should not exploit your patients or the participants who are involved in the research activities. If there are any benefits which are drawn from such type of research, then it must be equitably distributed or everybody should obtain equal benefit from those studies. There should not be any discrimination or any unfair practices during distribution of those benefits of those research programs. Sufficient safeguards to protect vulnerable groups should be ensured. Sufficient safeguards to protect vulnerable groups, very important term. Who are vulnerable? So as a general principles, those who do not have their own ability to judge or to take ability to take decisions. It may be children, it may be non-educated people, it may include females, it may even include males which are not mentally sound. So, or it may include elderly, old age people. So, these are all vulnerable groups or people coming from poor strata or low economic groups. These are basically all the vulnerable groups, and you should safeguard their benefits and they should not be unnecessarily exploited. The next principle is principle of social responsibility, whereby the research is planned and conducted so as to avoid creation or deepening of social or historic divisions or in any way disturb social harmony in community relationships. So you should not carry out any such type of research which may divide the society, which may make their own enemies among themselves. There should not be division of the people on the basis of the results which are obtained from the researches, or there should not be any deepening of social and historic divisions. We are already lot of divisions are there in our society, so we should not perform any such activities which is going to cause more damage or more harm or harmony in the community. Next is the principle of privacy and confidentiality. Very important term too. two important terms. What is privacy and confidentiality? So whenever if you see both these terminologies, you may think that both are interchangeable and there is same meaning, whether it is privacy or confidentiality. Both may have same meaning, but there is a thin difference between both the terminologies. What is meant by privacy and what is meant by confidentiality. So confidentiality, I will explain that whatever information is present in the laboratory or is available in the laboratory, or you are aware of any information, you should not disclose it to any irrelevant or unrelated personals. That is confidentiality. You should not disclose any important information to unrelated personnel. That is confidentiality. You are maintaining the confidentiality of the information. That is confidentiality. Then what is privacy? Any external person should not have access to your information in the laboratory. Any external personnel should not have access to information in the laboratory. Any unrelated personnel, any non-relevant personnel to their work, they should not have access to your laboratory information. That is to maintain the privacy of the information. Confidentiality, maintaining confidentiality, you should not disclose, and privacy is outside person should not have access to the information. So these are the two parts. Principle of ensuring privacy and confidentiality. So whereby to maintain privacy of the potential participant, his or her identity records are kept confidential and access is limited only to those who are authorized. So access is limited to only those who are authorized. Here you are going to maintain the privacy unless required by law or right to life. So there are certain situations where the confidential information is sought by court of law or due to some of the regulatory guidelines or due to some of the regulatory requirement, or maybe the right of privacy is there, but as compared to that, right to life is more important. So in such cases, you may require to disclose the information. So if there are any legal requirements, if there are any regulatory requirements, you may have to disclose some information. And if there is a preferential right to life, then you must disclose the information rather than preferring to right to confidentiality. So unless and until it is required as per these only two categories, there should be a complete privacy and confidentiality. Now, principle of professional competence, whereby the research is planned, conducted, and evaluated and monitored throughout by persons who are competent and have the appropriate and relevant qualifications, experience, and training. So, basically, whoever is performing any research or whoever is performing any laboratory activities, they should be sufficiently skilled and they should have sufficient competence to conduct those research or to conduct those laboratory activities. You just cannot put somebody to work in your laboratory, or you just cannot put somebody to do some type of research. So there should be appropriate qualification, relevant experience, and relevant training should be imparted. And whoever is involved in this type of training, they should be competent. There should be an appropriate professional competence. Next part is the principle of maximization of benefit. So whenever you are conducting any research, there should be an approach of to get the maximum benefit out of those research or out of those activities that will help the participant as well as society. Not only the participant, but also it should help the society. So there should be basically an appropriate approach to extract the maximum benefit from any of the research in your research area. Next is the principle of institutional arrangement, whereby institutions where the research is being conducted have policies for appropriate research governance, take the responsibilities to facilitate research by providing required infrastructure, manpower, funds, and training opportunities. So whichever institute is undertaking any type of research, they should have appropriate infrastructure, they should have appropriate manpower, there should be appropriate funds to manage those type of research. Lot of funds will be required to carry out any research, so there should be appropriate funds should be available, and training opportunities. Whoever are the investigator, associate, assistant, principal investigator, co-investigator. So there should be appropriate facilities to train those investigators and those whoever are observers or those whoever are recording the finding of the studies. So there should be appropriate training of those staff. So it is very important to have arrangement in your institute for carrying any research. It is one of the ethical considerations. So not like without any infrastructure, without any facilities, you just start doing some research and then there are some complications in between or the funds are not there. So the research is withheld or has been paused somewhere in between. So you must ensure that appropriate funds, infrastructure and manpower are available to carry out any type of research. Next principle is transparency and accountability. The research plan outcomes emanating from the research are brought into the public domain through registries, reports, or other scientific publications while safeguarding the right to privacy of the participants. So there should be a complete transparency, whatever research you have done. There should be some accountability. You should publish those data, scientific papers you should publish. Of course, taking care of the confidentiality and privacy of the participant. That whatever results have obtained, because this research result is going to help for the forming certain policies for the society or taking certain scientific development in your society. So whenever you are conducting any type of research, the data should be appropriately published in scientific publications. Stakeholders involved in the research should disclose any existing conflict of interest and manage it appropriately. So there will be certain types of hidden agendas, hidden benefits will be there for some of the researchers or maybe for some of the participants. So if there are any such conflict, if there are any such personal interest, personal motives for certain type of financial benefits, so all those conflicts must be appropriately disclosed in any type of research appropriately and it should be managed. If it is possible, it should be managed. Otherwise, those personnel who have conflict of interest as far as possible should be kept away from such studies. The research should be conducted in a fair, honest, impartial, and transparent manner to guarantee the accountability. So, to guarantee the accountability, it must be conducted in a very objective and fair, honest, and transparent manner. There should not be any hiding, and all the data, all the your financial accounts and impartiality. There should be a complete transparency so that it will account or it will guarantee the accountability and whatever practices are followed, it will be managed in a fair manner. Related records, data, notes should be retained for the required period of possible external scrutiny or audit. So whenever you are conducting any research, maybe there are audits from government bodies or from funding agencies. They will perform audit, they will perform scrutiny, they will verify your data, they will verify your processes, they will verify your research activities, they will perform frequent audits to release further funds. They will be finding out whether any useful inputs are coming from the research studies. So for that purpose, all the data, records and notes must be kept and retained in the laboratory. It is not like that you have done some studies and now since the outputs are not good or are of no use, you have just discarded the data. Let the external scrutiny be happen or the external audit could happen from any of the funding agency. Totality of responsibility. Now, whoever is involved in the research, the responsibility lies with everybody. It is not only that who is heading the project or only who was conducting the actual test, they are responsible. Principle of totality of responsibility means everybody who is involved is responsible for the results. Everybody who is involved is responsible for any unforeseen circumstances or any mishap which are occurring during the research activities or during the research program. The professional, social, and moral responsibilities compliant with ethical guidelines and related regulations are binding in all the stakeholders directly or indirectly. So, social responsibilities, professional responsibilities, ethical compliance, following the regulatory guidelines, everybody is bound and there is no exceptions, and all the stakeholders directly or indirectly whoever is involved in any type of research, they have to follow these guidelines, those rules and regulations related to the ethics, compliance and social and other moral responsibilities. Then the principle of environmental protection, again this is one of the very important aspects. Yesterday we have seen regarding the safety. So whatever research we are doing, the byproduct or whatever outcomes or whatever waste is generated should not cause any damage to the environment at any type, or should not cause any damage to the environment or resources during the research program or during the research activity. So for that purpose, again, if there are any other guidelines, regulations to follow the environmental protection, air water pollution license, biomedical waste discarding licenses, radioactive materials discarding guidelines, any chemical hazardous materials guidelines, all those guidelines and those regulations related to those activities must be followed. Now coming to the next part of this today's lecture is quality management. So here, first of all, we are going to see what is quality. So what is quality? Quality is the ability of a product or service to satisfy stated or implied needs of specific customer, achieved by conforming to established requirement and standards. So it should satisfy the customer needs as per the established requirement and standard. So it is not only the customer needs, but those customer needs which are as per the established criteria of standard, established requirement. So quality is determined or is the ability of a product that will satisfy the patient, or that will be satisfying the customer requirement related to the established criteria. So there should be established criteria, there should be satisfaction of the customer with respect to those established criteria, and there should be satisfaction with respect to the whatever services are provided by you. So that is the quality. So quality is the ability of a product or service to satisfy needs of specific customers achieved by conforming to the established requirements. So it is not like that to satisfy customer means you can use any unethical practices to satisfy them, you can do some malpractices. No, it should be as per the established requirement and established standard. It should be within that framework of the standard requirement and standard guidelines. So whatever maximum benefits or maximum satisfaction can be provided, that ability will be known as quality of your services. So here the watchwords are: say what you do what you say, and prove it. So whatever you are saying, you do it and prove it. So here one more, many a times I add one more phrase: do whatever you write and write whatever you do. So that is a evidences that you are following the appropriate practices. First of all, you say only what you are able to do or you are doing it. And if you are saying it, doing it, prove it that you are doing it as per the requirement. And do whatever you are writing, or write only whatever you have done. Not like that you are writing hundreds of things, but out of that only 10 protocols you are following, other 90 protocols you are not following. Or you may be following some hundreds of protocols, but you have written only 10. So basically do whatever is written, write only things which you are doing, and whenever somebody is asking, tell them only the things which you are doing and prove it that we are doing all those things. So, and these are the evidences. Prove it means you will require some evidences. So you should be able to produce evidences, whatever things you are doing in your laboratory, whatever protocols you are following, whatever the procedures, what are the guidelines you are following. So coming to the quality management, there is a specific quality hierarchy here. At the base, it is a quality control. At middle order, there is a quality assurance, and at the top is the quality management. So it is the quality hierarchy starting from a basic quality control. Second is the quality assurance, and at the top of this quality hierarchy, it is the quality management. So what are these three different things? We will see. First of all, quality control is a part of quality management focused on fulfillment of the quality requirements. So it is a part of the complete quality management system. It's not the complete quality management system. It's just a part which is focused on fulfilling the quality requirement. So fulfilling a quality requirement as per the requirement is a quality control. Now, for example, whenever you are processing test in your laboratory, you should run the quality control material or internal quality control. So this is a basically a example of quality control. We are focusing only on a part of our quality management requirement. We are not focusing on all the aspects. Here we are just finding out, or we have to make that your results are reliable. You are running the internal quality control. So this is a one part of your quality management which is focused on a specific activity or a specific requirement. Quality control is more the inspection aspect of quality management. So it is basically the inspection aspect, observation, review, the evaluation of the quality management. Alternative definition is the operational techniques and activities used to fulfill the requirement of the quality. So basically these are certain techniques, as I have mentioned. Performing quality controls, internal quality control is one of the technique or one of the activity to fulfill the requirement for quality. Next part, coming to the quality assurance. Quality assurance again can be defined as a part of quality management focused on providing confidence that quality requirement will be fulfilled. So again, it is again not a total quality management. It is also not considering the quality management as a full. It is also focusing on one part, but here it is a more broader term. Instead of inspections, we are also focusing, we are also providing confidence on the quality requirement which should be fulfilled. So it is not only the quality requirement which are fulfilled, but we are also providing a confidence whatever requirements are there, they are appropriately fulfilled. So again, it is a slightly broader term from your quality control, but again it is a one of the part of your quality management. The confidence is provided by quality assurance is twofold: internally to the management and externally to the customers, government agencies, regulators, certifiers, and third parties. So quality for assurance should include both the aspects: internally to provide confidence to the management and externally to provide confidence to the customer, government agencies, regulators, certifications, accreditation bodies. So they should also have a appropriate confidence on the requirements which are fulfilled by the laboratory. So that is the quality assurance. Now moving one step again, an alternative definition is at all the planned and systematic activities implemented within the quality system that can be demonstrated to provide confidence that a product or service will fulfill the requirement of quality. So now in the quality control, I have given you one example that running internal quality control on daily basis to ensure that reliable reports, results are generated is a part of quality control. Now, what is quality assurance? How will you assure that the quality control is run appropriately? So for that, you should have appropriate quality control material. You should train your staff to run this quality control material. You should train them to analyze this quality control data. So that will be a plan and systematic activities, not just running the quality control, but you have planned, you have systematic activities are planned, you have selected appropriate quality control material, you are providing training to your staff for analyzing the data and for reporting any type of outliers. So they should provide, they should demonstrate their activities. When you are giving them training, then they will be able to demonstrate those confidence that a product and service is fulfilling the requirements for the quality. So here now I am not just running the quality control, but whatever the supportive or other related activities are there related to the quality control, I have included that also. So it becomes a quality assurance. Now going ahead, quality management system. So now this is the broader term. It includes everything. It incorporates the organizational structure, resources, responsibilities, document hierarchy, interactions of processes, procedure needed to implement quality management of the laboratory. Now here they are not mentioning a part of the quality management system which is focused. They have included here everything: the structure, resources, responsibilities, document hierarchy, interactions of processes and procedures needed to implement a complete quality management system or a total quality management system. So all the activities including resources properly used, their hierarchy, documenting and providing evidences of activities you are performing in your laboratory, and the interactions of all the procedures and processes which are performed in the laboratory from input to output. What are procedures are performed, their interactions, their documentations, resources used, structure which is required, all these will be considered together as a quality management system. The quality management system describes the integration of all the processes required to fulfill its quality policy, objectives, and meet the needs and requirement of the user. So this quality management system should integrate all the processes required to fulfill the quality policies and objective, and that should help you to meet the needs and requirement of the user. So final aim or ultimate aim will be needs and requirements, fulfilling the needs and requirements of the users of the laboratory. So all the coordinated activities which are performed in the laboratory to satisfy or to fulfill the requirements of quality policy and quality objective, so that the needs and requirements of the users are fulfilled, is a total quality management system. Okay. Now moving next is the quality control. Whereas quality control refers to the process of minimizing the examination errors, quality assurance encompasses procedures adopted for minimizing that error that may occur at any stage. So now again here there is a clear-cut differentiation. Quality control refers to the process of minimizing the examination errors, and quality assurance includes all the procedures which are adopted to minimize the error. So it also in quality control includes to minimize the examination error. What we are doing? Running the internal quality control. But to minimize the errors of complete procedures, what we are doing? We are training the staff, we are taking appropriate sample collection, we are preserving those samples, we are transporting them appropriately, we are also doing calibrations of the equipment, we are doing appropriate reporting, we are reviewing those results. So all these activities will include as a part of quality assurance, so that there will not be errors in any stage of the your laboratory activities. The first essential in setting up the internal quality control of a test procedure in the laboratory is to select a proper IQC procedure to implement, choosing the statistical criteria, control rules, and the number of control measurements according to the quality required for the test and the observed performance of the method. So when you are setting up a internal quality control practices or procedure in your laboratory, you must have various prerequisites. You should have appropriate quality control material. You should define which controls you are going to use, how many times you are running the control, what will be your acceptable criteria, how you are going to reject the quality control runs, how you are going to do the troubleshooting. All those must be appropriately written in a internal quality control procedure, which after writing you are going to implement. So practices of IQC includes, so what are the general practices which are included in the IQC? Recognition of errors arising within the laboratory during the examination stage. So here we are specifically focusing on the examination or testing stage. So recognizing any errors within the laboratory. It includes taking steps to minimize those errors, equipment calibrations, method verifications, validations. We have covered this part, calibrations, method verification and validation. Taking steps to minimize error means there are various small steps. You should prepare the sample appropriately, SOP should be written appropriately, staff should be trained appropriately, equipment maintenance should be performed, equipment calibration should be performed, quality control checks for both quantitative as well as qualitative tests. So whatever test you are performing in your laboratory, whether it is quantitative or qualitative, there should be appropriate quality control activities must be performed. Now coming to first part, IQC for quantitative test. So Levisioning chart is most common graphical tool to plot the daily IQC values. So somebody was giving of suggestions that we can have a separate session of leveraging chart. So here, due to time constraint, I have included some part. Maybe if you require anything else, we can see it later. So basically, leveraging chart is the most common graphical tool to plot the daily QC value. These charts are the QC charts which should be used in the laboratory. Most of the current analyzers have inbuilt software to do this automatically. So you know all the analyzers, even Mindray, whatever analyzers they have for biochemistry or hematology, whichever analyzers are there right from their entry levels to high throughput analyzers, they have these graphical charts or softwares are available inbuilt which performs the monitoring of your QC results. They plot appropriate LJ charts. They will also flag for any type of outlier. They will also flag for any other type of error, random error, systematic errors. All those are plotted. If your equipment doesn't have this inbuilt software, it can be done manually using Excel sheets. So no offense, if any equipment doesn't have these facilities or you are doing anything manually, you have manual analyzers, semi-automated or even certain types of other tests which are completely performed manually, you can use Excel sheet to plot your LJ charts. Apart from that, there are various online tools available to plot LJ charts. There are various third-party softwares are available to plot the LJ charts. It can be used. Laboratories can also opt for commercially available IQC tools, LIS modules, middleware modules. So as I mentioned, there are various commercially available softwares, IQC tools are available, LIS modules are available, middlewares are available. It can be used. Please may focus on this word. What it mentioned, can also opt. It is not mandatory. So if somebody is insisting you to buy some costly third party software, it is not at all required. You can do even if on your printed graph paper which we have used in our school days or in our college days, that is also acceptable. No need to require any costly softwares or any LIS or any middlewares for this purpose. From these charts, trends and shifts in the IQC of a test run can be easily identified. Now, what is the use of LJ chart? You will be able to track the QC results. You will be able to find out the outliers. You will be able to also find out the trends. Any shifts are there, any drifts are there in your IQC results. Shifts and drifts we have seen on the first day. Shift means sudden change in your IQC mean, and drift means there is a gradual change in your IQC values on any one side. So all these trends can be found out with the help of these LJ charts. Calculate and obtain lab mean SD CV percentage from the IQC data periodically or monthly. So again, this question somebody has raised 2-3 days back, whether hematology analyzers require calculating the lab mean. So as I have mentioned, it is not required for hematology because your lot changes every month or maybe every 15 days. But as far as biochemistry is concerned, your lot will stay or remain constant even for 6 months and even for 9 months. In 1 year also it remains same. So you need to calculate the lab mean. You have to use lab mean and SD. You should calculate the CV percentage from the data periodically. How periodically? Monthly, 2 monthly, 3 monthly, quarterly, 6 monthly, as per the guidelines which are available. Only valid data should be considered for establishing mean and SD. So whenever you are running the samples or QC materials, many times you will get outliers or quite abnormal values. So those data should not be used while calculating your mean and SD. Only valid data which is within the manufacturer's recommendation. So whenever you are buying a QC material, first of all, you have to use the manufacturer recommendations, whichever ranges have been provided by your manufacturer. And in those intervals which are provided by the manufacturer, the ranges provided by the manufacturer, if there are any outliers, you should not use those data for calculating your mean and mean and SD. Again, irrespective of the size of the lab, all labs shall analyze 2 levels of IQC once daily. So again, I think 2 days back we have questioned how many QC levels should be run by a laboratory of micro size, mini size, or small size. So now here we have clear-cut guidelines. Irrespective of the size, all labs should analyze 2 levels of IQC once daily. So okay, there is no doubt, there is no confusion here. If the lab is 24/7, lab shall run 2 levels of QC once in the peak hour. So 2 levels you have to run in the peak hour. Apart from that, 1 level every 8 hours. So total 3 times in a day you have to run the QCs for a 24/7 functioning lab. Out of that, 2 levels must be run in the peak hour. Peak hour means mostly your morning hours will be peak hours. Some laboratories which are referral laboratories or which receives bulk of their samples in the night duties, they should run 2 levels in their peak hours. Afterward, you should run every 8 hours, at least 1 level should be run. So a clear-cut protocol for running IQC. Now no more confusion. Once it has come from ICMR, there are no other doubts. Okay, so once it has come from ICMR, as far as India, there are no further doubts. We have specific guidelines you have to follow. There is no other compromise or there is no other doubt. Apart from that, when you are running the one level of QC, when one level of QC is used, reject test runs if following error occurs. So how to analyze this LJ chart? So now there are two scenarios when you are running only one level of QC and when you are running the 2 level of QC. So when you are running one level of QC, any value of QC which is outside 3S. So that is a 1 3S error. So that will be a rejection. Two consecutive values which are outside 2SD but within 3SD, again it is a rejection. 10 consecutive values are above or below the mean but within 2SD, again it is a rejection. So here we have 3 rules we are going to follow. 1 3S rule, any one QC value beyond 3SD is a rejection. 2 consecutive values beyond 2SD plus 2SD or minus 2SD, doesn't matter, is a rejection rule. 10 consecutive values which are below or above the mean but only on the one side within 2SD, again is a rejection rule. So these are the rules which you have to follow when one level of QC you are going to run. Then when you are going to run 2 level of QC, what will be the rejection criteria? Either of the QC values outside the 3SD. So even if you are running 2 levels, any value of QC for level 1 or level 2, if anything is falling beyond 3SD, it is a rejection. Both the QC values for level 1 or level 2, if both the values are falling beyond 2SD, again it is a rejection. Differences between the two QC levels. So if level 1 QC is plus 2SD, level 2 SD is 2.3 SD. So the difference between two levels is more than 4 SD. So again it is a rejection. So one level may be more than 2 SD, another level QC is less than 2 SD. So that is a R4. We call it as a R4S rule. So whenever there is a difference between two levels of the QCs with more than 4 SD level, then it is a rejection rule. Again, 10 consecutive values for any one level is rejection. This is the rule same which we have seen for one level of QC. So same rules applies for 2 level of QC also. If 10 consecutive values mix and match up of both the levels or same levels will be considered as rejection rule. The last rule here is 5 consecutive values for one level of QC and 5 consecutive values of another level of QC if falls above or below but within 10 USD, it is again a rejection rule. So 10 consecutive values if for level 1 and if it is there are 2 levels, then 5 plus 5. So the total number of values should be 10 or above. If it falls only on one side, even if it is within 2SD, it will be called as a rejection rule. So these are the basic IQC rules which you have to follow if one level of QC you are running or if 2 level of QC you are running. I know there will be a lot of doubt. We will take it at the end of the session. Don't worry. Then there are certain notes. The laboratory personnel performing a test should determine the appropriate corrective actions to be taken for IQC data that fall outside the established tolerance limit. So Whichever criteria you are following, 1 level QC, 2 level QC, any outliers should be appropriate. Corrective actions and troubleshooting should be done by the laboratory personnel, and corrective action should be documented. Whoever has taken those corrective actions, they should document it. So whatever corrective actions you have taken, you should keep records of those corrective actions. There is another note: test for which quality control is not available or when running control is not viable due to low volume of test, the laboratory should apply alternate quality control techniques. Now these are alternate quality control techniques which should be used in the absence of quality control material. What it includes: retesting of any randomly chosen specimen, replicate test of specimen by different method, different machine and different persons where are applicable, and correlation with the test results and other parameters. So these are the alternative additional quality control measures. So retesting of the randomly or retained samples, split sample testing between two equipment, between two different personals, correlating your results with clinical features or with other parameters should be done as an additional test whenever a QC material is not available, or sometimes it may not be viable to run multiple QCs in a day. So in that case, the alternative techniques or alternative methodologies can be used. The laboratory should review trends of measurement uncertainty or CV percentage to identify any significant trends and shifts and maintain the record of review. So measurement uncertainty or CV percentage should be periodically monitored and should be documented, and it should be reviewed for the trend or shift, whether the CV percentage is increasing or decreasing. If it is increasing, that means your precision is increasing, your examination method is no more stable. So to identify all those things, you should monitor your CV percentage and measurement uncertainty on periodic basis. Now coming to the IQC for qualitative test, this we are seeing with respect to the quantitative test. Now considering the qualitative test, for qualitative test, positive and negative control should be included with each run. So whenever you are running samples, with each batch, with each run, you should include positive and negative controls. Apart from that, for staining procedures, gram stains require both gram positive and gram negative control organism to be once per week at least. So to verify or as a part of IQC procedure in a microbiology, gram staining, positive gram positive and gram negative bacteria must be stained at least once in a week. QC should also run whenever a new lot of strain procedure kit is used. Whenever you have a new lot of stain, gram stain, Leishman stain, HNE stain, or whenever new kit is arriving in your laboratory, or whenever a kit is replaced with the new kit, then again you should perform the QC as a part of new lot verification. So coming, that is guiding us to our next part of this program, that is reagent lot verification. So uniformity of the result is of paramount importance. Each change in the reagent lot can adversely affect the consistency and quality of the patient result. So whenever there are changes in the lot, it may affect the consistency or quality of the patient result. So it is not like that those lots are defective, but to verify that your results are as per those lots or as per the specifications, you should perform the lot verification. Assuring lot to lot uniformity is particularly important for those analytes that are serially measured over a period or over time, such as CBC, HbA1c, TSH, tumor markers, liver enzymes. You have bilirubins for your neonat. You have electrolytes when the patient is admitted or when there are elderly patients. You have creatinine values to mark for to monitor for nephrology patient. You have hemoglobin levels for pregnant women. You have platelet levels to be done daily monitoring for your dengue patient. You have HbA1c levels to be monitored for diabetic patients. So there should be an acceptable variation due to change in the reagent lot. There will be variation. There will be slightly variations in depending upon the lot to lot, but this variation should be within an acceptable limit or to be acceptable range, so that whichever parameters are measured over a time or over a period as a serial monitoring it should not affect the patient care or it should not affect the patient treatment. So reagent lot verification includes performance of new lot of reagents should be compared against the existing lot before the existing lot is finished. So now how to perform the existing lot verification? So before finishing the existing lot, you will be aware now only 5 tests or 10 tests are remaining for finishing the kit or finishing the lot. So the lot should be verified with the new lot. Whenever introducing a new lot, it should be verified with the old lot. Other alternatives to patient samples preferred for checking lot to lot variability may be reference materials or QC products. So the first choice should be patient sample. You should check the patient sample with the previous lot and with the new lot as a part of reagent lot verification. If it is not possible to take or if it is not patient samples are not available, then the other options are using a reference material or QC product. So if you have certified reference materials in your laboratory, you can use them to verify the lot, or you can also use QC materials for specific methods and manufacturers for reagents and lot to lot verifications. Proficiency testing material with the peer group established means. So you can also use proficiency testing material or equa materials also with the peer group established means. So as far as possible, this should be avoided because the proficiency testing material may not be stable for all the analytes. So, but in case if you do not have any alternatives and if the reference materials or if the proficiency testing materials are appropriately stored in ideal conditions, then it can be used as a lot to lot variations, lot to lot verifications whenever there is a peer group data is available. Now coming to the last part of today's lecture is EQA, that is external quality assessment, is also called as a proficiency testing. So EQA and PTE is the evaluation of participant performance against the pre-established criteria by means of inter-laboratory comparison. So external quality assurance or proficiency testing is the evaluation of the participant performance against the pre-established criteria. So participant means multiple labs can participate in an EQA program and their performance will be evaluated against a pre-established criteria. These criteria are pre-established. What will be called as an outlier? What will be called as an acceptable performance? So these criteria are pre-established. So participant laboratories samples will be compared against their performance will be evaluated against the pre-established criteria. Participation in the EQA and PT program is the best measure for accuracy for clinical laboratory. So you will be able to find out how reliable your results are, how accurate your results are as compared to your peer group. So whenever you might have seen some patient comes to your laboratory and they ask the report issued by your laboratory is wrong or is not correct because some other laboratory has given some other result or some other report. So if you are participating in an appropriate EQA program or PT program, then you will have some explanations or justifications that you are comparing your accuracy of your examination results with the other laboratories with appropriate EQA agencies, and hence your reports are accurate and reliable as compared to any other laboratories which are not participating in such type of program. Hence, clinical laboratories should enroll for all the tests in this program as far as feasible. So whatever tests you are performing in the laboratories, you should enroll for all those tests in EQA program as far as feasible. Again, a flexibility has been given as far as feasible. Feasible means like certain tests or certain EQA programs are quite costly and you may not have so many samples, or it may not be procured that EQA itself because it is not available in your geographical location. No supplier is available. Then you may not be able to enroll in those programs. You may not be able to obtain those services. So those cases can be exceptions. What are the benefits of EQA and PT participation? It assesses the overall performance of the laboratory for each test. It serves as an early warning signal system for the problem. So if you see the EQA result, Many a times, by seeing the equa results and comparing your results with other laboratories, you can get some warning signals or warnings that there can be future problem, or in next equa there will be a problem in equa results. So it acts as a early warning signals or early warnings systems for the future problems in your laboratory examinations method. It identifies systematic problems. So random errors, anyways, it is not able to catch such type of random errors because they keep on occurring randomly. But if there are any systematic problems related to the reagent, related to the equipment, related to the calibrations, related to the operator, those can be identified, and depending upon that you can take further preventive actions. You can do appropriate trainings of your staff, you can perform appropriate calibrations of the equipment, you can perform the maintenance of the equipment, and you can also change the reagent if there is a unstable reagent on your examination system. It provides objective evidence of laboratory quality. Objective evidence means now you have a certificate from equa agency. Now you have a appropriate equa score, satisfactory score from a certified equa agencies, and that will give you a confidence. It gives you objective evidence. Yes, your results are accurate. It identifies training needs, as I have mentioned. It will also help you to train your staff on certain aspects whenever there are equa outliers. equa and PT schemes usually have the following salient steps. So what are the steps which are involved in equa program? First is the laboratory must enroll in this type of equa schemes or PT proficiency testing program. Then they will send some samples or testing items to your laboratory at defined interval. Now this frequency may vary. Like for certain type of urine analysis, the equa samples by some agencies are sent every 15 days. For some biochemistry, hematology parameters, those equa samples are sent every month. Some equa agencies will provide you once in a 6 month. Like if you have seen equa related to the histopathology or cytopathology, the equa samples are sent once in a 6 month. If you have seen microbiology areas, there the organisms microbiological samples will be sent once in a 3 month. There are again certain other areas or very specialized areas related to the flow cytometry, renal pathology, or even your fungal cultures or mycology. The equa agencies will send sample once in a year. So it is the equa agencies will provide you samples at defined intervals. Participating lab must analyze these samples and return their results in the equa PT provider within the timeline. So they will give you, once they give you samples, they will provide a timeline. Within 10 days, within 15 days, you should submit your results. So you should submit your results via web portals or via any other applicable portals or mails, emails, or by post. So you might not be knowing, but previously we used to send those all the results by post also. So even by post or by courier, you need to send those results. So whatever is applicable portal is available, you should submit your results within the defined timeline. The results then the equa agency will analyze, evaluate, and laboratories are provided with statistical data and performance score in the form of Z score, standard deviation index, or any other means. They will simply provide you some scores like 80 out of 100, 4 out of 5. So there are various scoring systems are available with different equa agencies. So they will analyze the data and they will provide you the equa score, equa performance score. Depending upon that, they will also comment whether it is satisfactory or non-satisfactory. The laboratories must take appropriate corrective and preventive action when the score deviated from the acceptable limit. So whenever your score deviates from the acceptable limit, or whenever it is not acceptable, or whenever it is non-satisfactory, you must take appropriate corrective actions and you must have appropriate measures to prevent the recurrence of this type of outliers. Participating laboratories are expected to use the information regarding their performance to make appropriate changes and improvements in their operational process as and when needed. So you should use all those feedbacks and those information from equa agencies to improve the performance and operations in your laboratory as and when needed. Rightly used and understood equa participation will stimulate technical competence of the laboratory. So it will help in your improving the competence of your laboratory or skills of your laboratory operators if it is used appropriately. If equa PT program of particular analytic is not available, an appropriate interlaboratory comparison or any other method such as retesting of the retained items or testing by different personnel or again use of certified reference materials is recommended. So again, this is in case when the equa program is not available. As I mentioned, if it is not available in your geographical locations, if nobody is there to supply you or those, if there are some new tests where the ICA program itself is not available, then in those cases you can use these alternative approaches by using interlaboratory comparison or using retesting of the retained samples or testing by two different personas. We call it as split sample testing or certified reference materials with a specific assigned values can be used as a part of alternatives to IQA program. IQA providers who run this program must be accredited under ISO 17043. And this is 2010, but these guidelines have recently changed since this ICMR document is old. It's still mentioned 2010. The new guidelines have came in 2023. So this is the ISO 17043 2023 guidelines for proficiency testing provider or for IQA program provider. So they must also have appropriate accreditations or certifications as per this ISO 17043 standard. Laboratories should enroll in an accredited IQA or PT program if available. So if there are accredited programs are available, then you must enroll in IQA which are accredited. But if there are no formal IQAs or if there are no accredited IQA available, then you can enroll in any reputed IQA program or any program which is available in your location. So with this, we are concluding this today's part where we have covered ethics, quality management, internal quality control, and external quality assessment or proficiency testing. So with this, we will be able to take some questions. Not available of IPA, we go send two samples to outsource lab for internal comparison frequency for that. It's correct procedure. So you can do it once in a month, once in a 3 month, once in a 6 month, or once in a year. It's up to you, provided that it should satisfy your quality requirement. Now, if some tests you are performing thousands of tests or hundreds of tests per day, and you are sending one ISU samples once in a year, so that will not be acceptable. That frequency will not be acceptable. But if you are doing some sample once in a while, maybe you are getting one sample in a day or maybe one sample in a week, then you can perform the ISC comparison maybe once in a 6 month or once in a year. So depending upon the volume of test you are getting, you can define your IQC frequency. Apart from, can we use samples kept for discharging for research purpose? So again, there are now new guidelines from ICMR that retained samples can be used for research purpose. These are quite guidelines which have recently came maybe a couple of months back, and there are a lot of critics and there are a lot of criticism is going. There are a lot of discussions or arguments are going. But as of now, as per ICMR guidelines which were issued a couple of months back, the retained samples can be used for research purpose. Quality indicator parameter guidelines available for biochemistry hematology reference is available for exam TAT samples. So there are no references available for TAT. You should satisfy the requirement of the user. So if you are performing a glucose test and if you are keeping a TAT of 24 hours, it is of no use. Nobody will come to your lab. Whatever customer is expecting, you should be able to provide. They want reports in 2 hours. You should keep your TAT as a 2 hour. Okay. So if you are monitoring the glucose after 24 hours, if you are giving the results to any emergency areas, that is of no use to them. So you should be able to satisfy the requirement of the user. So we have already mentioned needs and requirements of the users must be satisfied. IQC is precision, EQC is accuracy. Yes, that's it. It is correct. LJ plot, I have mentioned already. We have taken it in very short. If you want a still a detailed class, we can have complete detailed class in all in LJ chart. How many QC done a day? I have already mentioned. As per these guidelines, if it is a 24 by 7 lab, 2 levels in the peak hours, and afterwards every 8 hours at least one level of QC should be performed. Okay. Please send link of LJ chart, online chart, how to prepare it. Please Google for WestGuard LJ chart tool. You will get it free of cost. Does Mindray help in? Please contact your local Mindray persons whether they will be able to fund you for related to some quality research work. And obviously, if there are certain genuine research, I hope they will surely help you. What are the two terms you said about LJ chart? I have said only LJ charts. Okay, LJ chart should be used for trends and shifts. Okay, I have mentioned that LJ chart should be used to monitor trends and shifts. Government setup like PSCs with less resources don't run QC. What is the suggestion in poor setting? So recently, last week, there are guidelines for public health laboratories. If you people are interested, we can take separate classes for government laboratories because those guidelines have been published recently last week for standard of medical laboratories in the public health. So we can take those guidelines, we can take separate class. It is a vast topic, it is a big standard. They are published almost 300 pages. We can take it if it is required separately. So please put it in your suggestion box. What is in by level 1 or level 2 QCs? So level 1, level 2 QCs are basically the levels of two levels of different concentration. One may be normal concentration, one may be high concentration or low concentration. So that is called as two levels of different QC or level 1, level 2 QC. IQC samples should be first, second, third party as per ICMR. It is preferable to have a third party QC to IQC samples, but it is not mandatory. Presentation slides you will get. What do you mean reject? Reject means you should do not process the patient sample, you should reject the QC run, you should take appropriate corrective actions and then you should process the patient sample. How to calculate the mean SDCV? Calculations are available, very simple calculations, or you can also use some online tool. Can we use pooled serum as IQC? A very common question. Thyroid parameters, if IQC material is not available. See, if you say that there is no QC for IQC material, Mindray people are hearing, they will provide you. Don't worry, you have to pay them. Okay. So don't say that IQC material is not available for thyroid test. It is a very one of the most common parameters, and QC materials is available very commonly. Calibration frequencies, outlier of QC's equipment service measure if any other is available. Yes, you can provide appropriate calibration frequencies as per the manufacturer's guidelines. Is any legal responsibility of any lab if they are not running QC samples in lab, or any fine or penalty on lab now or MOH India is a plan in future for that? See, running a QC is a requirement, and this ICMR guidelines itself is a regulatory document. Okay, so if they are telling you have to run QC, you have to run the QC. Okay, and there should be certain mechanism to monitor the performance of your QC results or patient results. So for that purpose, you should be able to run the QC. Now, if in case there are some medical legal cases, and if the some patient drags you to the court of law, and the court will ask you how you are ensuring that the results given by your laboratory are good or are quality report, they will ask you some quality control data. So you should have that. It is very difficult to answer all those medical legal questions, and today it is very difficult in India to answer all those queries, and there are a lot of complaints from consumer courts. So please put your protocols at place as far as possible. Try to follow all the standard practices. In reagent lot verification, when we run samples in both lots, what formula is to be used to calculate the acceptable criteria? You have to just calculate the deviations, and it should be within the 2 SD of your quality control result. What is the acceptance criteria while performing lot to lot? I have mentioned it should be within the 2 SD or 10%. Do need IQC daily for all instruments? Yes, as I have mentioned, we have already given the frequency. Outlier of equals of test for hematology, but IQC is okay. We can't repeat also. What are the corrective actions? So you should see what are the alternative testing methods are there. You should have appropriate root cause analysis. There should be some alternative mechanism where you will ensure that the results reported by your laboratory are accurate. You can use any other alternative methodology to confirm that reports released are accurate. For ILC, how many labs? You can use 2 labs minimum. For internal laboratory comparison, how to calculate the results? Very simple calculation. Result reported by your laboratory minus the result reported by the internal lab laboratory divided by the result reported by your laboratory into 100. So it should be within 10%. Again, it is not a standard practice. You can have different recommendations for different tests and different parameters. What about 3 levels of QCs in the LJHR interpretation? It should be used in combination as per the 2 LJ chart. Okay, so if there are outliers in 2, obviously the third level doesn't matter. If you are outlier, if you are outlier in 2 levels of QCs, the third level, whether it is acceptable or not acceptable, it doesn't matter. Okay, it will be called as an outlier. If 5 consecutive values are within 2SD but on the same side, what to do with report which is already dispatched? Please recall and have a review of all those results. Find out if there are any chances of error. If you are finding that there are no chances of error or there is no risk to the patient, you can release those reports. But if you are finding out that there are chances of error and some reports have gone wrong, you have to recall, you have to retest, and you should take appropriate corrective actions. Thank you very much. Okay. How to calculate weighted mean and SD? Mean is very simple. You have to add all the observations values and you have to divide it by the number of observations. Standard deviation formula is very difficult and it is difficult to calculate also. If you can note down, I can tell you square root of the summation of the mean values minus the individual observed values, taking the square root of whole divided by the n minus 1. So if you would have got it, you can take it, or maybe simply you can just Google out. It is not very difficult. Standard deviation is a very common terminology. You can take it out from anywhere and from the web. For lot verification, how many samples? 2 samples at least should be run, one for high value, one for low value. If you are running QC samples for comparison, 1 sample will be sufficient. Any warning in 1 cycle, immediately have to take actions. If there is a warning, you need not have to take actions. But if there are 2 consecutive warnings, you have to take corrective actions. Okay. If there are 2 or more consecutive warnings, you must take corrective actions. Is it necessary to run QC for all parameters? Yes. You have to run the QCs for all the samples. What is acceptance limit? I have mentioned already 2SD or 10%, whether it is CBC parameters or whether it is biochemistry parameters. Is ethical permission required for retrospective data? Yes, ethical permission is required even for retrospective data because you are going to use those data for publication. So maybe a waiver of you will require or a complete ethical clearance will be required. Does Unity software help to troubleshoot of IQC outlier? You have to do it. Okay. There are some recent analyzers for certain specific arterial blood gas analysis. They help you in troubleshooting. So basically, we are not into conflict of interest with any of the those analyzers. So you can just find out. They will help you. But they are not for biochemistry or hematology for specific. There are certain ABG analyzers which perform their troubleshooting by themselves. EQA for coagulation is available from many different EQA agencies, as I have mentioned, or somebody has commented also. You can use CMC EQA also. Kit to kit verifications for same lab for rapid serology is mandatory. Kit to kit verifications is mandatory for everything. whether it is rapid serology or whatever it is there, it is mandatory. Lot verification is mandatory. We have 24/7 lab using 2 level QC in the morning and 1 level in the, whether we should run, yes, you will require to run 1 level still again in the afternoon, because I have mentioned, as I have mentioned, it should be every 8 hours. You need to calculate the appropriate bias or deviations with the interlab and your values. It should be within the acceptable limit. Please share the reference documents. So whatever classes we are conducting, they are as per the ICMR guidelines 2021. So that document is freely available on ICMR website. You can download it. How to determine a target for IQC or TAT? What percentage of the parameters should fulfill IQC or TAT? So IQC you have to monitor for all the parameters. TAT, as I have mentioned, it should be as per the your requirement of the users. Whatever they want, you should provide a TAT as per their requirement. So arrange government tertiary care hospital. As I have already mentioned, there are specific guidelines for public health laboratories like government tertiary care hospital, PHC level laboratories, district hospital level laboratories, medical college level laboratories. There is a specific standard. If you want to have that class please put some in your feedback. The standard is very recently published. We can have it separately. Without taking a consent, how can use the recent sample for research? As I have mentioned, the recent guidelines have come from ICMR a couple of months back. It does give you permission to use the written sample for the research. Yes, please provide the feedback to Mindray. I am already mentioning even Mindray. You are getting consistently reminders from Mindray sides. Mr. Nikhil is already providing you the feedback. So whatever feedbacks are there, please provide your feedback and suggestions after every session. Okay, so it will help them to improve this program, and it will also help them to take more sessions on whatever is requirement is from your side.
So we are sharing the feedback link in the chat box, and also they are getting it by email.
Please leaving the session, before leaving the session, check the chat box and please provide your feedback. So they will take necessary actions and they will make necessary improvement in all these training programs. Supplementary material, reference materials. So these are available from commercials. Even Mindray will provide you the reference materials, their calibrators. If you want, you can ask them to provide those reference materials in your service areas. Whoever is the concerned person, they will provide you the reference materials and calibrators. Absolutely. Should TAT be calculated for all the parameters? Yes. If it is related to the patient care, you have to calculate the TAT for all the parameters. Can we get the guideline copies? I mentioned it is freely available in ICMR website. You can just download it. Thank you. How many percent government laboratories? So you can check if there are any papers, any publications, whether these people are running the QCs or not. As far as possible, we should follow the standard practices. Don't see who are running, the opposite person is not running, the person who is sitting the lab behind me is not running, then why I should run? You should follow the standard practice. If somebody is not following, that is their problem, not our problem. Okay. How to calculate MU for histopathology and cytopathology laboratory? MU is required only when there is any measurable quantity or measurable concentration. If there are any parameters which can be measured, then only you will be able to calculate the MU. For histopathology, cytopathology, if there are no measurable quantities, then you will not be able to find out the measurement uncertainty, and it is not required also. If there are no if there is a equa outlier and nothing is found in RC, you may assign it to a random error. Okay, but make sure that everything else was correct. Lot to lot verification should be done whenever there is a change in the lot. At least 2 patient samples should be done. Can we use TAE as an acceptable criteria for ILC? Obviously, you can use it. Those criteria are very standard. Is it necessary to run control for CBC machines, or can we skip? There is no skip for controls for whether it is a CBC or whether it is any other thing. Would the QC samples should be enough to verify lot to lot validation? Yes. One level of QC will be sufficient. QC lot to lot verification criteria and what is the difference? QC lot to lot verification is basically running the QC of two different lots in parallel. At least 20 runs should be done in parallel to come to an appropriate conclusion that the QC lot is appropriately verified. Reference materials. If you are talking about the document, as I have mentioned, it is freely available on ICMR website. You can download it. To calculate MU, do we have to select higher? Yes, you need to select the highest CV. No other option. How to do in labs where there is no ethical committee for providing ethical clearance to publish any studies? You should contact the nearest ethical committee from any other institute. So there are specific guidelines. If you have an ethical committee within 50 kilometers of your laboratory, you can approach those laboratories for ethical clearance. Okay. What exactly is the reference material? Reference materials are certified reference materials provided by the manufacturer with a specific assigned values and target values for each of the analyze. QC for RDKs. What is RDK, madam? Please specify so that I can provide you the answer. How many samples need to be run for lot to lot verification? Again, same question. 2 samples should be run. If we bias observed in negative control for more than 20 points is necessary to set lab means, because yes, if there is a bias, if you find out within your review of the IQC data, if you find out that there is a bias, then please, after having an appropriate root cause analysis, you may have to reset the mean and SD. So it is advisable to reset the mean and SD if there is a continuous bias. It may be due to change in the reagent lot or maybe change in the working of your equipment. Yes, as I have mentioned, please provide your feedback related to whatever your requirements to Mindray in the feedback form which are provided in the your chat box. Reference for acceptable guideline, acceptable bias. Please check CLIA guidelines. It is given in there. What is parallel QC run? Parallel QC run, basically 2 lots of different QCs should be run in a parallel. At least 20 samples or 20 QC runs should be run simultaneously in one lot. Sessions and recordings will be available at the end. So you can review all the reports whichever you have resulted within the last 3 months. If your required result is coming after 3 months, you have to review all the results whichever you have reported within last 3 months, and you should take appropriate actions if it is required. How to calculate CV for IQC? So all the tools are available, and as I have mentioned, a very difficult formula is available in the statistics. You can just Google, and I have also mentioned it in my session or in the Q&A session also. You can take it. Still 2 sessions are required. If we send the samples for interlab for IQC, then as I have mentioned already, that you should calculate the variations, deviations from your value and the interlab values, and you should see whether it is within acceptable limit. Okay.
Sir, 1 or 2 questions from YouTube also.
Yes.
Rina is asking acceptable CV percentage for triple H, HIV, HCV.
Acceptable CV percentage for
Triple H.
triple H. So as I have mentioned, please check the recent CLIA guidelines. They have also included various infectious parameters. Okay, so you can use that as an acceptable guidelines. Apart from that, there are no such standard guidelines to consider acceptable CV percentage as far as triple H parameters are there. You should be aligned with the manufacturer's specification. So whatever CV percentage is mentioned by the manufacturer, your laboratory CV percentage should be in line with them. Okay.
Sir, one question related to, I think so it is yesterday's talk, but Dr. Jasbir is asking, we have only one autoclave that is being used for sterilized dressing material. Now, new rule insist that we have autoclave sample tubes before disposable. Can we use the same autoclave for both purposes?
Yes. You can, obviously you can use the same autoclave. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, one person WhatsApp me asking what is the difference between the laboratory mean and the manufacturer mean?
So manufacturer's mean is provided by the manufacturer whenever they are putting the QC materials in the market. So before putting those materials in the market, they will run the QC materials on their different analyzers in their facilities and they will come to some conclusion. So those mean they will set or they will give you as an initial manufacturer's mean. And when you start running the mean or QC materials in your laboratory, it may vary. Whatever the manufacturer has given, the mean which you have calculated in your laboratory, it may vary because the environmental conditions, the equipments may vary, the operator may vary. So there can be certain variations between the mean values which are provided by the manufacturer and the mean which you have calculated in the laboratory. So mean which you calculate in your laboratory is the lab mean and the mean which is provided by the manufacturer is the manufacturer mean.
Sure, thank you.
So I think we are done with all the questions. If positive sample is not available during lot-to-lot verification, rapid testing of the dengue, as we have already mentioned, you should run the controls. If samples are not available, either you should run the controls for lot verification or a certified reference material should be used for lot verification. So I think
Sir, one person is asking, can we rerun EQA samples?
EQA samples, as I have mentioned, their stability doesn't remain for 1 month or 2 months. So even if you are keeping it under appropriate and under ideal conditions, you may not get the precise or repeatability in your results because those materials are not that stable. So it is not useful or it will not give you any additional input if you rerun the EQA material. So maybe you can analyze within 1 or 2 days of the reconstitution. Ideally, the EQA should be run on the same day immediately after the reconstitution. Apart from that, the EQA samples, the analyte are not stable. So it will not be any help to rerun the EQA materials or the EQA samples.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I think almost now questions are over.
Yes, I think
Right.
we tried to cover everything.
Yeah.
I will again request all the participants, if they have feedback or if they are suggestions, please check your chat box and give your suggestions.
There's one question. So would you like to answer that in the Q&A?
We will check it.
One lot QC material is over.
Another lot QC is run from the next day. How to calculate the mean and SD? So that is what before finishing in the presentation itself I have mentioned. Before finishing the older lot, you should run the QCs in the parallel. So that is only called as a lot verification. Before finishing the previous lot, you should verify the newer lot. Because if it doesn't get verified or if there is a defective, then you don't have any alternative once the lot is finished. So you should start the run before finishing the old lot. It must be appropriately verified before finishing the lot. Okay.
So I think the questions will go on, and we request everyone, if you have any questions, we had displayed sir's email. So you can also contact sir through email. Please avoid phone or WhatsApp. Email is the best source. So thank you for sharing the detailed insights on topics which are mandatory and practical knowledge. Your practical knowledge is extremely immense, sir. Your dedication to empowering the IVD community with best practices is evident in this comprehensive approach to clinical laboratory excellence. Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts, sir. Once again, I request you all to help us with your feedback, as sir has been continuously announcing, so that we can have more of such academic sessions that are of practical use to laboratories and our IVD fraternity. So tomorrow we look forward to another insightful session filled with valuable takeaways. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you all for an interactive session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikhil. Thank you, Namrata.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Please fill in the feedback forms so we also get a chance of improvement and we bring more mandatory things to you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye-bye. Yeah, bye-bye.